Welcome to Good Morning Canada. I'm Jocelyn Laidlaw in Calgary. We've got a lot in store for you today. Lying, cheating, and stealing. Are we destined to do wrong?
People cheat because this is a symptom of something not going right.
From presidents to movie stars and preachers, we go inside the heart of a cheater to find out what drives our deception. Loyalty in question.
Canadians want to know that citizenship means something.
Why the multi-million-dollar Lebanon evacuation has some calling for change to our citizenship laws. Keeping their promise.
People aren't going to be protected from high transit intakes coming to restaurant and fast foods.
Fast food joints pledge to get rid of trans fats. We put their food to the test. We're checking the fats for you. And remembering those lost in times of war.
I mean, every day is a remembering of some kind. Remembrance Day just kind of pulls it all together.
A painful first Remembrance Day for the family of Captain Nicola Goddard, a Calgary soldier killed this year in Afghanistan. We find out how her parents are coping. That and a whole lot more coming up in the next hour, but we begin with your morning headlines from CTV Newsnet. This Remembrance Day weekend will be especially meaningful for the Goddard family of Calgary. Earlier this year, 26-year-old Captain Nicola Goddard was killed while serving in Afghanistan. The family has always taken part in Remembrance Day ceremonies, but this year they'll participate in a way they never wanted to. CTV's Kirk Hoyser reports.
It has been nearly 6 months since Captain Nicola Goddard was killed in a firefight with Taliban forces. For her parents, the pain is no longer as acute, but it lingers.
We're sort of taking things one day at a time, sometimes an hour at a time. And every day is a remembering of some kind.
Remembrance Day has always been significant for the Goddards. Relatives fought in both world wars. But the day took on added meaning starting last year.
We knew Nicola had got her orders that she was going to be rotating to Afghanistan beginning of this year. And so Remembrance Day was poignant for that last year, and this year, of course, for her.
The Goddards used to stand shoulder to shoulder with the rest of the crowd gathered for Remembrance Day ceremonies. This year, they will lay a wreath to honor their daughter, and when he does, Tim Goddard will pause.
Just having a quiet word with my girl, with my daughter, and, remembering this vibrant young woman who we've lost. And in a joking way, telling her off for getting herself killed and making us go through all this.
Sally Goddard will picture her favorite image of her daughter, Nicola, in Afghanistan.
The picture we have of her is certainly personified by her time in Afghanistan and by the pictures we've seen of her in Afghanistan. Somebody who loved what she was doing, had passion, had drive, believed what she was doing was the right thing. What a better way to go. Let's remember that.
Kirk Hoyser, CTV News, Calgary.
Tim Goddard believes Canada should live up to its promise to stay in Afghanistan until 2009. The Harper government voted to extend the mission on the same day Nicola was killed. Canadians coast to coast are pausing this weekend to pay tribute to those who have served in defense of our nation. Now, war veterans and their supporters are fighting a new battle, this time over how to honor the sacrifice of Canadian soldiers. At the heart of the fight, the poppy, not the traditional red one, but a white flower lapel pin that has veterans groups upset. CTV's Kevin Green reports.
Carolyn Pogue is a peace activist and author and a member of Women in Black, the group that is distributing the white poppies for peace.
We want to encourage people to think beyond death and war and destruction.
She says the poppies are not in competition with traditional red poppies. She says they complement them.
One is to remember the soldiers who have served, the military personnel who have served and are serving. And the white poppy is to remember the civilians who have died.
We caught up with Calgary's Poppy Fund Chairman George Bittman at a Remembrance Day ceremony at a local school.
And to have the white poppy being distributed at this time of the year takes away from the meaning of the red poppy.
Children here think the white poppies are improper too.
Red poppies in Flanders Field it actually grew as a real flower, but then different colors, it wouldn't be like true.
In Edmonton, the white poppies are being sold. In Calgary, they're being distributed for donations. The Canadian Legion says in any event, the white poppies are illegal.
The poppy is a trademark that is controlled by Dominion Command in Ottawa, and we must protect that.
The Legion has sent a letter to the Women in Black telling them to stop distributing the poppies. The Women in Black say they won't stop distributing these white poppies and won't hold off until after Remembrance Day either. In fact, on November 10th, they'll be here at the famous 5 statues in downtown Calgary, staging one of their regular demonstrations and handing out the white poppies to anyone who wants one. Kevin Green, CTV News, Calgary.
The white poppies cost $2 each. Half of the money goes to the Peace Pledge Union in England and local efforts to promote peace. The red poppies are free, of course, but donations are welcome, and that money funds a variety of services for veterans and their families. Canadian Blood Services and our military share a long history. The program started over 60 years ago when Canadians began donating blood for wounded troops in World War II. As CTV's Kevin Fleming reports, the agency is paying special tribute this month to our military.
This is Gaetan Delaire's 149th donation to Canadian Blood Services, but this one is special. It's in honor of his son Kevin, who was killed in Afghanistan 3 months ago.
It keeps his memory alive. As I was saying earlier, not that we're going to forget about him, we probably will never will, but doing things that are tied with him, in his memory, in his honor, it makes it more worthwhile to me.
Delaire is donating platelets, and that takes up to 2 hours, but he can donate again after only 2 weeks.
Platelets actually have been donated for, I would say, probably 5 years now. Before I used to donate whole blood all the time, like in Coalic, when I was stationed before with the military, I used to go to the mobile clinic every time they would come out.
With platelets in particular, there is an increasing demand, and right now we need to actually have more donors who are giving strictly their platelets in order to be able to keep up with that demand.
Eric Johnson is donating whole blood for the first time. He knows the need and says he'll be back to donate again.
I guess it was a little bit easier than I thought, actually. So there wasn't too much, just a nice little questionnaire, and everyone's really nice around here, so it made it really easy and relaxing.
Rosemary Sikora can't donate, but is here waiting for her husband, who is. She's happy to see all the chairs filled with donors and the chance to support our troops.
With the winter time and Christmas coming, that people are sort of feeling that, you know, that they can give. It's something that's in us to give, as they say. So I think it's important.
Canadian Blood Services In Honor campaign supporting our troops runs through till November 30th. Kevin Fleming, CTV News, Calgary.
This month, special cards are available to honor Private Kevin Delaire. When you give your donation, you can fill one out and it will be delivered to the family. New concerns over 2 popular osteoporosis drugs. Coming up, worries that they could have disfiguring side effects. Also, slam dunk, the remarkable cross-country journey of a young BC girl in desperate need of a new heart. And Canada-wide meat recall, syringes found in ham at a Maple Leafs food plant. We reveal what was inside the needles. That and a whole lot more when Good Morning Canada returns. Welcome back. Federal health authorities say no illnesses have been reported as a result of a syringe casing found in a ham at a Maple Leafs food plant in Kitchener, Ontario. Test results show several syringes found in the plant contain a saline solution, while another was laced with blood thinner. As CTV's Nicole Lampa reports, the recall has many consumers worried.
These are the ones I want.
Grocery shopping has never been so nerve-wracking for Karen Fung, especially after a national recall of certain Schneider's meats that rolled off the production line at this Kitchener plant.
There is a sense of fear going on right now as we shop for these certain meat products with Schneider's.
While others have faith in the company.
Not overly concerned. I have to believe that management was on top of it.
3 medical syringes with no needles, like this one right here, were found inside this plant. 2 of them were found in the processing area. The third one was found inside a piece of meat, and that's when the police were called in.
Police are working with the Canadian Food and Inspection Agency.
We're really looking at whether it was accidental, intentional, whether something within the manufacturing process allowed this to happen, and those are all things, it's a wide open investigation.
Maple Leaf Foods owns Schneider's. The company says all the possibly affected meats have been pulled off the shelves across the country. Tests on the syringes show no trace of harmful solutions.
2 of them contained saline, minute traces of saline solution, which is a salt-based solution. One of them, the one from November 2nd, contained something called a heparin lock flush solution, and it has no human health implications.
For now, consumers are being asked to throw out Kent smoked hams and 4 types of Schneider's lifestyle fat-free products. Karen Fung remains cautious.
It's a wake-up call for all of us now, as we always think all these packaged goods are all safe when we buy it.
Maple Leaf says all the meat voluntarily recalled Tuesday has now been taken off the store shelves across the country. The one syringe found November 2nd did contain traces of heparin, as you heard, a common blood thinner. Maple Leaf says consuming heparin does not pose a health risk. Could it be that we're finally getting the message that gaining weight is not just bad for our waistline, but bad for our health? There's some encouraging news in a new Stats Canada survey, but hold on a minute. Don't reach for that leftover Halloween candy just yet.
So how much is it? Statistics Canada wanted to find out.
It's not really a big issue for me. I just do it just to feel better about myself, I suppose.
I used to go for exercise and very conscious with my diet, but not anymore. Just too busy with my school and part-time job.
It's how you grow up and it's in your environment, and that's how I grew up, and my parents always wanted me to eat healthy and exercise.
From 1996 to 2005, StatsCan followed a group of men and women ages 18 to 64. Every 2 years, they checked in to see if the people had lost or gained any weight. Men gained an average of 9 pounds and women gained 7. But the encouraging news to come out of the study is that while on average the participants gained weight every year, they gained the least amount of weight in the last 2 years. Sharon Zeiler, Senior Manager of Nutrition at the Canadian Diabetes Association, says this has far-reaching health benefits.
It's easier to prevent a disease like diabetes or heart disease than it is to deal with the complications once you've developed it.
So you may be asking, why now? Why are people gaining less weight in the last couple of years? Well, health experts believe that one of the major reasons could be food companies. They are taking responsibility of what they're putting in their food, and they're making that information readily available to consumers about trans fats and calories. Zeiler says it can also be attributed to an increase in awareness and prevention campaigns about obesity, which can lead to many health complications, including diabetes. 4 to 5 people with type 2 diabetes develop heart disease.
There is a growing trend among fast food chains to lower the amount of trans fats in their foods. Last week, we told you about KFC's plan to eliminate it from their menu. And last year, Wendy's pledged to lower the amount of trans fats in its fries. But did they make good on the promise? CTV's Eleanor Kupsami finds out.
Lots of people may be avoiding fries because they're worried about trans fat. This past summer, Wendy's announced it was switching to a new kind of cooking oil that would virtually eliminate trans fat. That's a good thing. According to a nutritional scientist at the University of Guelph, studies show just 5 grams a day over many years could boost heart disease risk by 25%. Trans fats may also affect brain development in children.
People aren't going to be protected from high trans intakes coming through restaurant and fast foods. I think that's still an ongoing problem and a big one in this country.
Last year, Wendy's said by August, depending on the serving size, trans fats would range from 0.3 to 0.5 grams. So Consumer Reports tested samples of fries right after the announcement was made in June and then 3 weeks after the August deadline.
The fries were ground up and then tested at 2 separate labs to measure the levels of trans fat.
Despite Wendy's claim that a large serving of fries contains a half a gram of trans fat, our analyses revealed that a large serving contains 2.5 grams of trans fat.
Wendy's 2.5 grams of trans fat is far more than it claims, but it's a lot less than McDonald's and Burger King fries. Consumer Reports found more than 6 grams in their large-size fries. Wendy's says the fast food chain has thoroughly tested and checked the fat content of its fries, using testing methodology recommended by the Food and Drug Administration. Consumer Reports says it will continue to test fast food. In the meantime, if you want a helping of fries without a dose of trans fat, New York Fries may be an option. In April 2004, it changed over to non-hydrogenated sunflower oil. They were one of the first companies in Canada to do so and claim the fries have no trans fats. Eleanor Koopsamy, CTV News, Winnipeg.
In Ottawa this week, Parliament voted down the idea of forcing fast food restaurants to post nutritional information on the food they serve. The Commons overwhelmingly killed the private member's bill on food labeling. MPs from all four parties soundly defeated the idea. The change in the Food and Drug Act would have made it mandatory to post nutritional information, like fat and sodium content, on packages of fresh meat, prepackaged processed foods, and menus at large chain restaurants. The restaurant industry has been the most vocal critic of the idea. We've been told for years to cut back on the carbs. Many jumped on board the Atkins diet, downing bacon and butter instead of bread. Now new research shows eating high-fat, low-carb likely does not increase your risk of heart disease. Dr. Timothy Johnson has more.
The low-carb diet is controversial among some nutritionists, but it has been touted by others and some self-help books that say limiting carbohydrates can help you shed pounds. Experts worry about the risk of heart disease that might come from replacing carbohydrates with proteins. New research published in the New England Journal of Medicine suggests that eating a low-carb diet may not increase the risk for heart disease. Harvard scientists followed over 80,000 female nurses for 20 years. Every 2 years, the women were asked to fill out a questionnaire detailing their diet. Researchers found that the women who ate fewer carbohydrates had a less than 1% risk for heart disease. In fact, they found that those who got their protein from vegetable sources, like fruits, grains, and nuts, had decreased their risk of heart disease by nearly 30%. While more studies need to be done to include other risk factors and to look at the effects on men, experts agree that a heart-healthy diet should embrace healthy types of both fats and carbohydrates. With this Medical Minute, I'm Dr. Timothy Johnson.
Imagine your bones spontaneously breaking for no apparent reason, or your face and jaw horribly disfigured. And what if someone suggested that the drug you're taking to make your bones healthier and stronger was to blame? That's the concern for thousands of osteoporosis patients. As CTV's Karen Owen reports, one Alberta doctor believes the fear is unfounded.
Alan Stevenson has osteoporosis. It's so severe he's had spontaneous fractures.
Spontaneous meaning I did not fall, I did not bump into anything.
For instance, his heel fractured while he was standing. Stevenson and his wife both take the osteoporosis drug Actonol. However, recent studies have linked Actonol and a similar drug, Fosamax, with a nasty bone and gum disease that occurs in the jaw. Now, it is still considered a very rare side effect. Nonetheless, patients are really beginning to worry.
We've had a lot of calls at the Osteoporosis Center from patients who are taking these drugs for osteoporosis, wondering if they should come off them.
The side effect that's got everyone worried is called osteonecrosis of the jaw. Now, this is a picture of a very serious case. Scary, but Dr. Henley says very rare. In fact, so rare it may be naturally occurring and has nothing to do with the drug treatments.
The overall benefit in preventing fractures far outweighs the risk of this disorder.
Stevenson says he heard about the potential side effects from friends who were concerned about him, but he's told me he's not worried, and he credits Actonol for 4.5 years without a bone fracture.
And that's why I wouldn't consider going off the medication, because I feel I'm getting help.
A group of North American bone experts is investigating the two osteoporosis drugs in the hopes of alleviating any fears. Karen Owen, CTV News, Calgary.
While the experts continue testing the drugs, law firms across North America are also investigating. They're looking for patients for possible class action lawsuits. It was a desperate effort to find a new heart. A BC girl and her mom packed up and moved to Toronto hoping for a transplant. They left the rest of their family behind, not knowing when they would return. Now they're back home with a story that is heartwarming in more ways than one. Michelle Simic reports.
13-year-old Cecilia Ferreira can't quite beat her big brother's block or his jump shot.
I would have gotten it if it weren't for jump ball.
But considering just a few months ago doctors didn't know whether she would live or die, it's a miracle she's playing at all.
I could only walk 10 steps before.
Cecilia was born with a serious heart defect. Over the years, she had 4 open heart surgeries and about 45 other procedures. But in the spring, doctors warned without a new heart, Cecilia's chances weren't good.
I didn't have much hope. We don't know. We didn't know what was happening.
That's when Cecilia and her mom said their goodbyes. They packed up and moved to Toronto, waiting for a heart to become available. They expected to be there at least 2 years.
It was really, truly a miracle.
But just 7 weeks later, Cecilia got her new heart.
Well, now I can do sports and stuff, and my heart doesn't hurt anymore, like when I just do simple tasks.
She's only been back home for a week, but her mom says the difference is incredible.
I feel we've gone to the miracle mile. We've gone there, we reached the top of the hill. From here, I expect great things.
Now, she doesn't need as many timeouts. And she's planning on trying out for any sports team she can.
Soccer's in the spring, and then I'm going to try out for flag football.
Cecilia's still got a lot of challenges ahead. Frequent checkups with doctors and the risk her body could reject the new heart. But she'll have lots of help along the way. Michelle Simic, CTV News, Burnaby.
When we return, your morning headlines from CTV Newsnet and...
I think we've all heard people raise concerns about dual citizenship, but I happen to think that it's a net gain to Canada.
They enjoy the benefits of Canadian citizenship but don't always live here. Next, the growing debate over dual citizenship and the expensive evacuation that touched off the controversy. We're back after a short break. $85 million. That was the cost of evacuating 15,000 dual Canadian citizens from Lebanon during the war with Israel in July. Now, half of the evacuees have returned to the war-torn country, and that is prompting calls for change. The Tory government is re-examining the rules of dual citizenship. CTV's Roger Smith has more on the growing controversy.
The immigration minister is stirring the controversy over dual citizens by questioning their status and loyalty.
Canadians want to know that citizenship means something, that, we're not just a port in a storm.
During the war this summer, Canadian taxpayers paid $85 million to evacuate 15,000 Lebanese Canadians. Many have since returned to Lebanon, raising questions about whether Ottawa should pay for such rescues. Complaints, too, about those who live abroad, then come back to use Canada's social programs.
I think Canadians would feel that that is unfair, and we think that's correct to have that concern, which is why we're studying it.
Minister Monty Solberg says the government won't revoke dual citizenship, but is considering new taxes and rules. Critics accuse him of trying to appease anti-immigrant sentiment among conservatives.
In the words of my professor, bullshit baffles the brains. I think he was trying to BS us, and that is certainly not Bachelor of Science.
I think he just raised a red herring, and he wants to distract attention from issues that should be focused on.
An estimated 4 million Canadians hold dual citizenship. Supporters argue Canada already gets some of the tax they pay abroad if they return here.
I think we've all heard people raise concerns about dual citizenship, but I happen to think that it's a net gain to Canada. I think it's a very important program. I think it's made us competitive for immigrants around the world.
Fears are that if dual citizens are hit with new taxes or restrictions, some immigrants might think twice about coming to Canada. But changes are not imminent. Solberg says his department is still considering the options. Roger Smith, CTV News, Ottawa.
Of those 4 million dual Canadian citizens, StatsCan estimates only 500,000 actually live in Canada. Coming up, the untold story of Canada's female war veterans and...
Maybe once. It's a long time ago. Wasn't serious.
When one lover isn't enough, compulsive cheating from unfaithful spouses to fixing your score and cheating on tests, we take a look at the mindset behind cheating. Welcome back. Have you ever used a cheat sheet in school, or maybe changed the score in your golf game when no one was looking? While frowned upon, even sometimes illegal, cheating is widespread. CTV's Jocelyn Laidlaw now on the psychology behind cheating.
It's something most of us try and do, live a moral, ethical, and honest life.
I've never cheated.
But at times those morals and ethics are forgotten. No matter how innocent or destructive, it pushes some to be dishonest with themselves and others.
No, I haven't cheated on anything.
A diet?
Yes. Cheated? Yeah.
Maybe once. It's a long time ago. Wasn't serious. Didn't count.
People cheat because this is a symptom of something not going right.
Psychologist Dr. Ken Reeser says cheating, lying, and stealing are all connected, and says no matter how innocent, everyone has done it at some point in their lives.
We can learn as a kid by lying to mommy that we don't get a spank. So we start to know maybe I can get away of avoiding consequences.
There are all different kinds of cheating. Of course, who hasn't taken a break on a diet, used the internet, or peeked at the answers for a crossword puzzle? But cheating can be much more dangerous.
Cheating is a slippery slope.
Even ruin lives. Proves Peterson lied to Fry. Scott Peterson made headlines around the world after he killed his wife and unborn son in hopes of being with his mistress.
Harris is serving a 20-year sentence.
Texas woman Clara Harris ran over and killed her cheating husband outside a hotel.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
There was Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky. And in Canada, who could forget the Liberal sponsorship scandal?
What is really needed is a culture change.
What about Enron? And more recently, a millionaire movie star, Wesley Snipes, is charged with $12 million in tax fraud. The list goes on and on. So the question is, have we become a society of cheaters?
I saw a website that said smart people cheat. You could buy this little bumper sticker. So again, it's almost making, hey, if you're a cheater, you're probably smarter than the average bear.
In Canada, there's a much stronger commitment to values.
Still, this ethicist says there is pressure to conform, especially in the workplace.
If they are rewarded, say, for making profits and showing a good profit statement at the end of the year, then they'll cook the books.
And experts say sometimes desperation and opportunity push people to cheat. This Ottawa waiter was nabbed by Revenue Canada for $12,000 in unpaid tips.
I was told everybody does this, that's what you do, and everything goes from there.
But could there actually be good reason to lie or cheat?
We want to put a good front on. We want to look, we don't want to be judged poorly. It's kind of a survival skill.
Even ways to do it right.
Definitely ways to be a good cheater. First of all, you want to stay as close to a credible story as possible. And I think where people slip up when they're cheating is they make up too much, they embellish too much.
Jocelyn Laidlaw, CTV News, Ottawa.
Coming up a little later, cheating on the internet, how the web can play a major part in infidelity. And still ahead on Good Morning Canada, part 3 in our series on one of Canada's most secretive agencies, and
no woman that I've ever talked to considered herself to be a trailblazer, but they really were.
Remembering the efforts of some unsung war heroes, thousands of women who did their part far from the battlefield. Their story and much more when Good Morning Canada returns. Welcome back. As we remember the sacrifices of our war vets, we're also acknowledging the efforts of some unsung heroes, the 45,000 women who signed up during World War II. At first, the government didn't want them, but they soon proved invaluable. CTV's Diane Verneil has their story.
In a study surrounded by World War II mementos, writer and journalist Ruth Russell is piecing together a neglected part of Canadian history.
A great deal of women's history has fallen through the cracks.
Ruth is documenting the story of an army base in Kitchener and the thousands of young women who train there.
To honor and to celebrate these really unsung heroines, these modest ladies who did their bit.
It's a project coordinated by the Canadian Federation of University Women. Project Chair Margaret Walker says it's a story that needs to be told.
They had no idea what they were getting into, but they were willing to go ahead and try it anyhow. And they didn't think that they were leaders.
During World War II, 45,000 women served in the Canadian military as clerks, cooks, drivers, and even top secret assignments, with many receiving their basic training in what was then Waterloo County. 14,000 passing through an army base in Kitchener, with 7,000 training at a Navy base in Galt. But Ruth says she was shocked by how little information there was on this important chapter in Canadian history.
There were bits and pieces from so many sources, Diane. Sometimes I felt that it was going to be almost impossible to find the story, to bring it all together, but the story was found, and it's a wonderful one.
Here's what's left of the army base in Kitchener. The barracks were torn down long ago. There is a statue commemorating that women trained here, but otherwise not much information. So Ruth turned to the veterans themselves to hear their first-hand accounts. This video was produced along with Ruth's book. It shows the new recruits, some as young as 18, who came to Waterloo County from every corner of Canada. Why they joined?
Almost entirely patriotism. You know, Canada was a very different country then. It was total war, as it was called, and these young women saw what was happening. They wanted to go out and serve their country.
These were the first women ever in Canada allowed into the military. The Canadian government didn't want them, but by 1941 reluctantly gave in.
At this point, the Canadian government had been forced to realize that this was not going to be a fast war, and it was not going to be an easy war. Probably a European invasion would ultimately be involved, and the casualties would be extremely high. So they needed men for the front, and therefore the men who were working in support jobs, they realized could be replaced by women. So that's why the women's services were formed.
The base, originally used by men, featured a collection of hastily erected buildings. But in the fall of 1942, the men cleared out, and 3 weeks later, the women arrived, facing extremely primitive conditions. No central heating, with no private bathrooms or shower stalls.
The young women arrived and they were just horrified. Many of them took their showers with their bathing suits on for months because they weren't used to this thing. The barracks were uninsulated. They were extremely cold in the winter, heated only by pot-belly cold stoves. But things did improve. A great deal of money and effort was put towards making the barracks more civilized, improving the bathrooms, and so on.
But few complained as they got down to the business of 4 weeks of basic training. This vet says one of the first things they had to learn was marching.
There was a lot of snow that year in 1944. Drifts and drifts and drifts of it. The back, and that's where we would have to go out and do routines. You'd have say you have a pass, and they would inspect you, and then you were let go had to be in a certain time.
Another vet says a film crew was present when she arrived. While carrying her army kit, she tripped over her feet.
So somewhere in this nation's archives, I imagine, is this film. And that's me, my one and only movie.
Soon the girls buckled under the Army's rigid discipline, learning how to make their beds, shine buttons, and of course, the endless marching. They were being trained in jobs behind the scenes to free up men so they could fight on the front lines.
My first job was a secretary to a major in the Army Service Corps in Vancouver Barracks. He was not keen on having women workers in his camp, but all his A-category men were being shipped overseas, and girls were doing things like waitresses, drivers, stenos, clerks, literally replacing men.
Some found themselves in sensitive positions, like this high-frequency tracker who followed German sub-activity in the North Atlantic.
The Germans didn't realize that we had broken their code, that we had Enigma near the end of the war, and we were trying to copy, but there was something the matter, and we couldn't understand. And finally it dawned on us that it wasn't for space. What it was going on and on. Finally one girl jumped up and said, "Hitler's dead." She came from the Kitchener area around here, and she could read the German. So we got it before the Admiralty ever announced or anything.
After the war ended, many of the female vets continued to meet as they could, but now most are over 80.
It's getting harder and harder for us to carry on because there's fewer and fewer of us who can and will.
It's much less now. Yeah, we've lost a lot.
And we're all over 80, and it was difficult to get meetings going in that.
I don't really have any friends left now. They're all gone.
That story is now told in Proudly She Marched, with Volume 1 focusing on the Canadian Women's Army Corps, or QUACs as they're called. Ruth says the vets she talked to are too modest to admit how they changed the role of Canadian women.
No woman that I've ever talked to considered herself to be a trailblazer, but they really were, because in the first place, no women had ever served in uniform in Canada before this. And secondly, they did do a lot of jobs that women had never done before, just as the women who worked in war industries were doing jobs that women had never done before.
I think it made me a better person.
When I was discharged, there was no way I would go back home and live off my parents. No way.
I just loved it. And I'd do it again if I was 18.
The question is the chicken and the egg. Are we like we are because we joined the Wrens, or did we join the Wrens because we're like we are?
Now, besides the Army training base in Kitchener, there were two other main facilities for women, one in Vermilion, Alberta, and an officers training centre in Sainte-Anne-de-Bellevue, Quebec. When we return, we go to CTV Newsnet for your morning's top stories, and later.
If we knew what was really going on, the kind of powers and the massive amount of eavesdropping that they're doing, I think Canadians would start to be concerned.
Canadians spying on Canadians. CTV investigates our nation's most secretive spy agency, the only one with the power to listen to our phone calls, even read our emails. It's part 3 of our special report when we come back. Here's what's ahead in the next hour of Good Morning Canada. Love 'em or hate 'em, they stir emotion and mark our National Day of Remembrance. Now bagpiping your way to a higher education, we take you to Canada's only degree program in piping. A destructive path to heartbreak.
I think monogamy is clearly a failed experiment.
Why so many people cheat on their spouses. Deja vu for Denzel.
You had to tell someone the most important thing in the world, but you knew they'd never believe you.
Another surefire thriller for the Oscar winner, We Meet the Stars. And inside the CSE, sounding the alarm over the spy agency's sweeping powers.
We also cannot be naive. Terrorists exist.
Why even the CSE's own watchdog is worried. That and a whole lot more in the next hour, but first, the latest news from CTV Newsnet. The Communications Security Establishment, or CSE, is the most secretive spy agency in Canada. Most Canadians have never heard of it, but it has the power to eavesdrop on communications worldwide. And some critics say the CSE may be violating the Constitution by spying on Canadians. Today, in the last of our 3-part special report, Todd Vanderheyden finds out why there's so much concern over what the CSE is doing.
Earlier this year, the White House found itself in a scandal over a secret plan that allowed the National Security Agency to eavesdrop on its own citizens without a warrant from a judge. The plan was ruled illegal by the courts, and Washington was ordered to stop. Yet Canada's NSA equivalent, the Communications Security Establishment based in Ottawa, has the legal right to do the same thing: monitor Canadians' private communications. While there's no concrete proof that this is actually happening, privacy activists say there is just cause for concern.
If we knew what was really going on, the kind of powers and the massive amount of eavesdropping that they're doing, I think Canadians would start to be concerned.
The CSE is an agency most Canadians don't even know exists. With a large budget and staff, it's a member of a global partnership with the US, the UK, Australia, and New Zealand. The partnership uses the best hard and software to eavesdrop on communications all over the planet, from phone calls to emails to chat groups. The mission is to target enemies of the state, nowadays notably terrorists. The CSE, though, expanded significantly after 9/11 thanks to the new anti-terrorism law. And this former spy says the law now allows the CSE to eavesdrop on us.
It allows CSE to intercept communication of Canadians now living in Canada.
For several months, we tried to talk to the CSE. They did give us a tour inside their headquarters without cameras. We met with their top lawyer and one of their software engineers for background interviews, much of it classified. We were told we'd get an on-camera interview, but then the CSE stopped returning our calls. The CSE, though, does say it's not intentionally targeting Canadians, only people outside of the country. It denies there's any secret computer database full of our private communications, and it says any private phone calls or emails by Canadians that it does intercept are deleted. But things are vague. Critics say we only have the CSE's word to go on, and the NSA denied its secret plan until it was exposed by the media.
It is quite possible that CSE is monitoring communications of Canadians that should never be permitted by our Privacy Act or even by the Charter of Rights.
One review of the CSE was done by Canada's Privacy Commissioner, a federal watchdog that's supposed to ensure privacy rights. But in this report, the commissioner flagged concerns, saying there was, quote, a lack of transparency and openness, and that the CSE now has for the first time the power to intercept Canadian communications.
It is unhealthy for democracy not to know whether we are or not under surveillance.
So, who watches the watchers? There is a CSE commissioner. Until recently, this man, Antonio Lamer, the former head of the Supreme Court. The commissioner is supposed to ensure the CSE follows the law. In a recent report, though, Lamer himself did write that there is a lack of clarity and certain ambiguities about the agency. The CSE told us it, quote, respectfully disagreed with its own watchdog. Warren Ullman was a minister in the Trudeau government.
They could go and get an authorization to tap your phone, to tap your computer, etc., on a very broad, loose basis. So there's very little control. It's too wide open.
Martin Rudner, a CSE expert, defends the agency.
Now, I personally believe, very strongly, that our intelligence and law enforcement communities and national security communities operate lawfully.
Still, intelligence mistakes like Maher Arar, who was tortured based on faulty intelligence, have raised concerns.
The Muslim community, I don't think, is adverse to helping security agencies. What the Muslim community, I think, fears is being abused by security agencies.
So, does the anti-terrorism law give the CSE too much power? Parts of the law have been struck down recently as unconstitutional. Joko Martin of the NDP says the law should be changed to give Parliament more control of the CSE.
To provide us with the opportunity as parliamentarians to do our job, protect Canadian citizens, and at the same time make sure that our intelligence services are not abusing their powers.
But can we afford to tie the agency's hands?
We also cannot be naive. Terrorists exist. They exist in Canada. They communicate within Canada and to and from Canada.
The CSE is likely doing what it thinks necessary for national security. But in the process, is it going too far and staying too deep in the shadows?
Todd Vanderheyden joins us now from Montreal. Todd, most Canadians know about CSIS, the CSE, not so well known. What made you want to look at it more closely?
Well, Jocelyn, this story began about a year ago. I read a small article in a magazine about the CSE, and I'd done reporting before about CSIS, and I knew about that, but had never heard about the CSE. As we started to dig, though, and I saw the amount of resources this group had, the staff that it had, and I guess most importantly, the fact that about 99.9% of Canadians had never heard of the CSE, it really flagged my interest. So I thought to myself, why not do a story in which we would inform Canadians, shine the spotlight on the CSE, not expose, I wouldn't use that word, but shine the spotlight on what this group was doing and how dramatic of a shift the CSE has seen since 9/11, not only in terms of their powers vis-a-vis national security, but also their effect on Canadians' privacy.
No doubt. Now, the CSE's whole purpose, of course, is to operate secretly. Must have been quite a challenge to get information from them.
It was quite a challenge, let me tell you. The CSE not used to talking to the media, not used to much public spotlight, so they were very reluctant. Our initial calls began in May of this year. It took us a long time for them to even return our phone calls. Also difficult, Jocelyn, for us to find experts that were comfortable talking about the CSE. Again, so little is known about this group that it took a while for us to find the right people, the right privacy activists, the right civil liberty activists. A number of people did refuse our request. Canada's own privacy commissioner, if you can imagine, declined to talk to us about this. Even the CSE's own watchdog declined to talk to us about this.
Well, Todd, I know that the CSE did initially agree to an interview, then pulled the plug. What happened there?
This is probably the strangest part about this whole story. As you saw in that report, we did get a private tour inside, and as I walked out, I had this funny feeling that they were going to cancel the interview, although I had nothing to base that on. Several weeks went by, and they stopped returning our calls altogether. Our emails, they would not call us back. They basically decided to pull the plug, and they would not be doing any television interviews. What's interesting, though, is about 2 weeks before the story went to air, my boss, the news director here, came out of his office and said the CSE had been calling him and that he'd been playing telephone tag with them for a couple of weeks, which was very strange if you think about the idea of a spy agency calling a journalist's boss to talk to him about the story the reporter was working on. So I found that a little bizarre, a little strange.
Sure, still some unanswered questions with this story. What's next in the story?
Well, since the story aired on Good Morning Canada and also here in Montreal, we have received word from one of the CSE's own former employees, a man by the name of Mike Frost, who we profiled in one of the parts of our story. He's an ex-employee, one of the only ones that's ever come forward to talk. He now has more information to share, so we're hoping to do a follow-up on this story in the months to come. We're also hoping that now that we've done what in many ways was a first for television of exposing and putting the spotlight on the CSE, that other media will pick this up and continue to tell the story of the communication security establishment.
All right, Todd. Well, we'll look forward to any follow-ups. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
When we come back, we check in on this week's Billboard Top 10 as Timberlake tries to take a second single to the top of the heap. Also, no longer Mr. Britney Spears, the pop princess, kicks her hubby Kevin Federline to the curb. And Mose Persico sits down with Denzel Washington to talk about his latest movie and find out why he's a super proud papa when we return. Welcome back. It has mystified us for years, that feeling of déjà vu, where a flash memory triggers that spine-tingling sensation that you've been there, done that. But what if the feelings were actually warnings from the past or even clues about the future? That's the premise behind Denzel Washington's new film. Good Morning Canada's Mose Persico hooked up with the two-time Oscar winner and the rest of the cast of Déjà Vu.
It's a phenomenon known as déjà vu.
A love story that unfolds in reverse, the idea of bringing someone back to life, and an action film with a rare mix of unpredictable thrills with compelling questions about the nature of reality is what Déjà Vu, a new suspense action drama, is all about. Oh yes, it's also about that spine-tingling sensation that all of us have experienced, that feeling of a flash memory which hits us at the strangest of times. Ever wonder where these feelings come from? Well, this movie may not have all the answers behind the scientific phenomenon, but it sure is one entertaining flick.
This is not surveillance, this is the actual past.
Yes.
They found a way to fold space back onto itself. Remember the blackout we had a few years back?
Half the Northeast, you're saying you guys?
50 million homes?
My bad.
Wow.
It was an interesting challenge. And to talk to Tony and to talk to Jerry and to understand their enthusiasm and where they wanted to take the film and Tony's feeling about what surveillance is actually capable of these days and how it's not very far from what we were doing. And what we did is based on what the research that we did. That became very interesting to me. And as Tony would say, if we can fill the first half of the movie or whatever it is with science, with fact, then people can take, the leap becomes shorter when it comes to time travel, that it's not so far-fetched.
That's right, because you do a nice job of explaining to the audience this whole idea of the parallel universe.
And bending,
And I love the way your character does it, because he's frustrated because he's talking this mumbo jumbo.
I'm the audience. I'm like, explain it, break it down.
That's
okay,
right.
This is broken. That's fixed. Now, is this fixed or is it broke? I think there would have been a level of frustration, or the audience may have disengaged if we didn't do that. Because I am the audience at that point. I'm like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. Break the, talk, make sense.
What if you had to tell someone the most important thing in the world, but you knew they'd never believe you?
I try. You think you know what's coming? You don't have a clue. The genesis of my character, the one thing that I had to find was, when I'm sitting in that room and I'm looking across from Denzel, is that, look, I'm the guy who's right here. I'm the one being wrong. No. You're the government. You have manipulated everything.
Yeah.
You've committed treason against our country.
You're the dishonest ones, not I.
Not exactly.
Yeah.
And that, but what's responsible of this movie is that Denzel, and only very few guys could do this, and he is a legend in his own right, man. He says, it's kind of this point where it's like, no. There is a good, and there is a bad, and you are bad, and I am good, and it would, by anyone else, it would be ridiculous, but with him, it's pure.
It has a level of authority. You're shooting in Nova Scotia. You're enjoying your time there?
Yes.
Us Canadians, we kind of like to have you guys over. You know that,
Oh, it's great.
What if you had to tell someone the most important thing in the world, but you knew they'd never believe you?
I try.
Most of the time when you see a time travel movie, you're going back decades and decades in the past or the future. This only goes back 4 days, and only for the purpose of seeing what happened in the past. And then it goes somewhere else. And I think that's what's really unique about the film. And it's an action story, it's a thriller, and it's a love story.
Yes.
And somehow they were able to combine all of that into a really fun movie, and then also a movie that makes you think and ask questions. What's possible?
That's
you
right.
know?
Speaking of love story,
Yes.
let's cut right to the chase. Claire, called upon to tend to the medical needs of Denzel Washington's character.
Yes.
How were those scenes for you? Because the women were like oohing and ahhing. Out comes the shirt, folks, of Denzel. Of course, the women and the guys. I mean, why not?
Why not?
How did you feel with that? Because I understand you had a little deja vu experience of your own prior to shooting the film.
Well, you know what? They mix that up a little bit. My character has a deja vu feeling for Doug, Denzel's character, and that's what the truth is that when he enters her life quite suddenly, she starts to feel like this person is familiar, and it's very odd, and that's what the deja vu happens. So I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
But I'm sorry. What was the question before that?
Tending to
tending to Denzel.
He's shirtless, and you're kind of applying these bandages.
She just sort of rubbing sexily.
Yeah.
I tried to be honest to the moment and really bandage that wound.
Yeah,
that's all I will say.
Sure you did. Of course.
I got it.
You know you don't have to do this. What if I already have?
Mose Persico joins us now. Sorry, Mose, that you didn't make it to Mexico this week, but it works out better for us.
It does, okay.
We get to talk to you once again. Denzel Washington, a fantastic actor, but he is 52 years old now. Does he show any signs of giving up these action flicks?
Well, Jocelyn, I'm afraid not, because like fine wine, Denzel Washington keeps getting better with age, and he has a tremendous ability to pick projects that suit his needs. Now, I know what you're saying. Unlike some other actors in his age category or older who sometimes look silly chasing the villains or the bad guys, films that come to mind, Harrison Ford in Firewall. Remember how silly he looked taking on a band of extortionists who threatened his family? Or how about Clint Eastwood in the dreadful Blood Work? He really looked silly running down the street after this villain. Denzel Washington goes after film scripts that have him portraying intelligent, witty, tough-minded characters who take on the bad guys, and you gotta hand it to him for that reason. I like this guy, this two-time Oscar winner, Jocelyn. He's truly gracious. Prior to sitting down during our interview, he always likes to talk sports. Did you know that he has a son now playing in the NFL for the St. Louis Rams? And on this day, yes, he does. On this day, he was beaming like a proud father because he wanted to quickly do all the interviews and rush off to Oakland to catch his son on the sidelines playing against the Oakland Raiders.
Wow, that is strange. I love Mose when you come on because we get these kind of tidbits we had no idea about. Can I ask you?
Yes, he also has a daughter who just got a scholarship in an Ivy League university, so he's a beaming, proud grandpa as well.
No doubt. All right. Well, Paula Patton co-stars in this film. I've never heard of her. How did she end up co-starring alongside Denzel?
Well, you got to hand it to producer Jerry Bruckheimer, who has this knack of casting these fresh faces. Although Paula Patton made quite an impact in the musical Idlewild, she's a fresh newcomer. She also had a little role in Hitch opposite Will Smith, a native of Los Angeles, studied at USC Film School. And you know, she reminds me of those actresses who shot up to stardom, very much like Jennifer Beals in Flashdance, or Nicole Kidman in Days of Thunder. Again, Jerry Bruckheimer films. This guy has a knack of setting off starlets into the stratosphere with their respective film roles. Paula Patton will be the next Rosario Dawson. She's really sincere. She's effervescent. She's bubbly. She enjoys doing film interviews. Wait till we see a couple of other films under her belt. It remains to be seen, but she comes across as a very nice person.
All right, well, you heard it here first. Thanks as always, Mose. We'll see you next week.
All right, take care.
Okay, bye now. Comedian Bill Cosby has reached an out-of-court settlement with a Canadian woman who accused him of drugging and sexually assaulting her at his home.
I think it's all right for you all to just lighten up a little taste.
Details of the deal between the 69-year-old entertainer and the Ontario woman are not being released, but the woman, who is in her 30s, claimed Cosby assaulted her at his mansion in Philadelphia in 2004. Cosby's lawyers say the comic gave her Benadryl after she complained of stress and sleeping problems. It's shaping up to be a bitter split for Britney Spears and Kevin Federline.
Everybody's talking all this stuff about me. Why don't they just let me live?
Spears filed for divorce early this week, citing irreconcilable differences. She's asking for custody of the couple's 2 young sons, but Federline is countersuing, demanding full custody and spousal support. The tabloid-bashed couple were married just over 2 years. Federline reportedly signed a prenuptial agreement 2 weeks after the wedding. Spears gave the date of separation as Monday, the same day she showed off her post-pregnancy body during this surprise appearance on The Late Show with David Letterman. No sign of Britney or her estranged husband on this week's Billboard Hot 100, but Britney's ex, Justin Timberlake, has dominated the charts in recent weeks with not 1 but 2 smash hits. Can he bump Ludacris from the top of the heap? Let's take a listen to the top 10.
That we gotta go our separate ways. And I know it's hard, but I gotta do it. And it's killing me, 'cause it's never a right time. It's just a little too late, a little too wrong. And I can't right here. If I known how to save a life, where did I go wrong? Always claim they know me, coming to me, call me Stacy. I'm the F to the E-R-G. Sexy back. The motherfuckers don't know how to act.
BBC, the original breadwinner of DTP, and you the center of
Up front style, ready to attack now. Pulling the parking lot slow with the lockdown. Convicts
Walking on the beach, our toes in the sand. I can see us on the Pinterest side, sitting on the grassland side by side. You could be my baby.
Here's a look at the top 20 albums in Canada this week. They took an uncertain journey to a foreign land and new lives overseas. Now hundreds of Canadian war brides travel back down memory lane. We join the coast-to-coast trip full of memories, both good and bad. And from cheating to cheating hearts, why are so many husbands and wives having affairs? Part 2 on cheating when Good Morning Canada returns. When we say I do and walk down the aisle, we hope it'll last forever. But the reality is 40% of Canadian marriages end in divorce, and infidelity is one of the most common reasons for breaking up. So what is it that makes some people cheat? CTV's Catherine Latham looks at the unfaithful spouse.
It's how many find love in the 21st century, meeting someone online with hopes of living happily ever after. But now the internet is hooking up those who are already married.
As an alternative to not necessarily leaving the relationship, we do seek fulfillment outside.
A husband and father, Darren Morgenstern is the founder of AshleyMadison.com. The website's tagline, "When monogamy becomes monotony." It's a dating service for men and women who are already married looking to have an affair. Morgenstern knows he has his critics, but says he has no guilt.
We're providing a legitimate service that people can go to explore the full gamut of their feelings without feeling harshly judged, being able to bail whenever they want, and there's nothing wrong with making a profit.
And that profit is a big one. Revenues for Ashley Madison are expected to hit $10 million next year. Since going online in 2002, more than 1 million people now use the site worldwide. The men-to-women ratio is 8-to-1.
I was very surprised that it was so sophisticated, that it was so easy to do.
CTV agreed to protect the identity of an Ottawa man who uses the Ashley Madison site. The man we'll call Rick spoke to us by phone. He was married just a year when he started using the site and says he never considered being unfaithful before logging on.
It's not as if I would have met someone in real life while I was married and made any kind of overture, because you just don't know how someone else would receive that. But on Ashley Madison, you know the other person is looking for basically what you're looking for, and then it's just compatibility after that.
He met 2 women online, affairs his wife knew nothing about. He says she would have been devastated. He also says the lies were stressful, but says life is too short not to do what makes you happy.
I had to compartmentalize. I had to find out, as if the life is too short, so, I had to do what I wanted to do and not let the guilt get to me.
As for how many Canadians actually cheat on their spouse, well, those estimates are varied. Some studies say 20%, while other estimations are as high as 80%. Still, experts say those numbers are hard to prove. Few people actually admit to being unfaithful.
I think monogamy is clearly a failed experiment.
Failed is sorry, and it's not an experiment. It's something we've been doing for millions of years through evolution.
University of Ottawa professor and director of the Ottawa Couple and Family Institute, Dr. Sue Johnson, is a world-renowned couples therapist. She calls websites like Ashley Madison disgusting and says affairs are not happy adventures.
Affairs are mostly people desperately reaching for comfort. They cause incredible pain. They destroy families.
Statistics show men cheat more often, but Johnson says that's starting to change with more women in the workforce.
Suddenly there's a guy at work who, gives you all kinds of reassurance how great you are as a person. He seems awfully comforting when your husband just seems irritable. There's a real sort of open door for that.
Better not friggin' lose it.
John Sullivan has made a career out of tracking down cheating wives and husbands.
Unless he were looking for a hooker, he's taken roads he shouldn't have taken.
A private investigator for nearly 30 years, he calls himself a matrimonial specialist and says he's seen it all.
We've gone from clergy having affairs to simple with guys with young hookers trying to dress them down like a little girl. I've seen all of it. The hookups in the public washrooms.
Still, Johnson says you can save a marriage after adultery.
You can't just say, look, I'm real sorry. Well, it's in the past, I can't change it. That's not true. You can change the emotional consequences. You can help your spouse with her feelings or his feelings.
As for Rick, he is now separated from his wife and says Ashley Madison had nothing to do with the breakup. And even though he has cheated in the past, he hopes to one day find another long-term relationship and says he can be monogamous. Catherine Latham, CTV News, Ottawa.
A Via Rail train carrying 200 war brides and a cargo of precious memories arrived in Halifax this week. It was the culmination of a poignant journey, a trip back in time as the brides retraced the route they took to new lives some 60 years ago. CTV's Jed Kahane reports.
Taking the train can be memorable, but rarely as meaningful as this.
My eyes are dim, I cannot see. I have not brought my specs with me.
250 war brides on a sentimental journey back to Halifax, to the pier and the place where their lives as Canadians began.
I haven't been on a train since I arrived in Montreal 60 years ago.
They came from all over Europe, mostly Great Britain, more than 40,000 in all, bound to be reunited with the Canadian soldiers they'd met and married in war-torn Europe, and the promise of a bright new life.
We'd lived through the blackout and everything. When we came into Halifax Harbour, everything was all lit up, and it was just like Christmas all over again.
It also meant leaving their families for a land they'd never seen.
Very barren. It was cold and wet. It was in April. I was seasick and I wasn't very happy. But I remember them playing Here Comes the Bride, and I have 2 children.
Back then, the train dropped them at points from coast to coast, in towns and on farms, with in-laws they'd never met. And sometimes it all fell apart.
It was hard for me. My husband left me 2 weeks after.
But for others, it's been an enduring love story with their husbands and with Canada. 18 couples plan to renew their wedding vows in Halifax. And this time they won't be using ration coupons to pay for the dress.
And 7 for that dress.
Times have changed, but the memories of what they left behind and what they gained are fresh as ever. Jed Kahane, CTV News, Montreal.
And the women arrived in Halifax Tuesday night to a large crowd of well-wishers. The idea of this train trip came from Via Rail employees who also organized a voyage from Halifax to Ottawa last year for veterans. Many of the war brides who came to Canada in the 40s landed at Pier 21 in Halifax. As part of the festivities on Wednesday, 18 of the war brides and their husbands renewed their wedding vows. Each Remembrance Day reminds us we are losing our World War II vets. And there's genuine concern the younger generations don't understand the sacrifice made by others. But at one Calgary school, the memories live on. Students of the Juno Beach Academy held solemn ceremonies in Queen's Park Cemetery, where more than 5,000 veterans are buried. Students carefully cleared the snow from each grave and marked it with a Canadian flag. Military studies are part of the curriculum at the school, but the students say remembrance ceremonies are something everyone should observe.
Each grave is different. Each grave symbolizes a different person that sacrificed each of their lives.
There's so many people who didn't come home. Like, these people are lucky in a way to be back here so their families could put them to rest. But hundreds, if not thousands, of people died over there, and they're in some of them unmarked graves.
Veterans paying tribute to their fallen comrades say it warms them to see young people joining in the tributes. Coming up, the serious and not so serious legacy of Donald Rumsfeld. Also, a new church campaign that has some shaking their heads. Do bobblehead Jesus go too far when it comes to saving souls? And thousands of communities gave their bravest members to the cause of war. We'll have the one story of a Montreal suburb where World War II came to life when we return. Welcome back. Remembrance Day is a time to pause and think of the sacrifices our troops made overseas. But an Ottawa history professor says the fight on the home front in both world wars was just as vital. He says you need only look to the Montreal suburb of Verdun. Like many communities, it answered the call of duty in a time of war. CTV's Derek Conlon reports.
During the Second World War, Verdun was the country's 13th largest city, and no other city its size had a higher enlistment rate.
Nothing gives me more pride than to say that I'm a native of Verdun.
In his book, Fighting from Home, former Verdun resident Serge Derflinger says many people enlisted because their families were still closely tied to England. Others enlisted because of a sense of community.
Many of the Verdunites who enlisted did so, they claimed, to defend their community and their families, not just patriotism or king and country.
Those feelings certainly influenced the Hill brothers.
I think that has something to do with also the idea that my dad was from England and they were required to help over there.
James, Harold, Tom, Clarence, and the late Robert all enlisted, and all 5 came back.
We've thought of Verdun, that's our home, you know? And if anybody's going to take it away from us, we want to know about it.
In addition to the more than 6,300 Verdunites who enlisted, the town pulled together. War bonds were sold. There were salvage drives, and children sold candied apples to raise money for children overseas. And Mayor Edward Wilson organized the Mayor's Cigarette Fund. With contributions from the public, twice a year a carton of cigarettes was sent to each and every Verdun soldier, sailor, and airman who was registered.
To support their own kin, their own family, their own friends, neighbors, colleagues overseas. It wasn't just a generic fund.
As part of the attempt to bolster the spirits of the men overseas, the Navy encouraged communities to adopt ships. But the British Navy already had a ship named Verdun.
And so they interposed the 2 syllables, and so a Canadian Navy frigate, an anti-submarine warfare ship, was named Dunver.
The ship's first captain was from Verdun. The Dunver was scrapped after the war, but the Verdun branch of the Royal Canadian Legion is the custodian of the ship's bell. The country's top ace during the Second World War came from Verdun. The town named a street and then a park and a school for George Burling, who shot down 29 enemy aircraft. While on leave during the war, a rally in his honor drew 5,000 people. And Verdun's Defense Industry Limited, or DIL, became the country's leading producer of small arms ammunition.
To a point where more than 1 billion rounds were manufactured in Verdun.
The DIL is long gone now. All that remains is this sawtooth facade of a factory where thousands of workers gathered every day to manufacture bullets for the war effort.
The contributions to those men and women's morale and to their overseas sense of purpose was greatly facilitated by those of us on the home front who were here working voluntarily or in industry to support the war effort. They were a remarkable generation.
Derek Conlon, CTV News.
They create the haunting sounds of Remembrance Day, the bagpipes. And while there are many places to learn the Scottish musical instrument, Canada is one of only 3 countries to offer a degree in piping. CTV's Dan Vio finds out what it takes to graduate.
It's an unusual calling and an extraordinary classroom with a student-to-professor ratio that can't be any better, and lessons that demand listening but not to lectures. Duncan Allison of St. John's, Newfoundland is already an accomplished piper, but as one of the first 2 students taking the Bachelor of Music degree here at UPEI with a major in Highland bagpipes, he knows he can be much better yet.
I came specifically for this program. I transferred from Memorial University in St. John's to UPEI just for the one island to another. I basically want to become a better musician in all the things I do. I also play guitar. And I'm enjoying the rest of music school as well, learning how to sing and piano and all that stuff. So.
Duncan is in good hands. His piping professor, Scott McCauley, founded the College of Piping and Celtic Performing Arts in Summerside in 1990, after winning international acclaim for his own piping skills.
There's 3 universities in the world where you can get a degree with piping, and this is the only one in Canada. The other 2 are Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and the Royal Academy of Music and Drama in Glasgow, Scotland.
Highland pipes can only produce 9 different notes, so making them magical takes remarkable skill.
Most people in the world get a very bad impression of the bagpipes, because usually it's the worst players who they're most eager to play. So.
McCauley says excellent technique is critically important with the Highland pipes, but to be a truly outstanding player takes more.
It's really important that each student puts their own musical signature on their playing, and that's my job, is to bring that out in them.
Duncan isn't sure exactly what he'll do when he graduates with a degree in the pipes. Even though it will be an honor very few others in the world will share, he says it's really all about the tunes. And people passionate about piping say that's music to their ears. Dan Vio, CTV News, Charlottetown.
You can get bobblehead versions of your favorite hockey player, even movie star, but what about a bobblehead Jesus? It's one of several controversial images sparking debate over the church's modern approach to faith. CTV's John Hendricks has more.
The United Church wants to take traditional religious discussion and jazz it up for the new millennium. It's just launched a multi-million-dollar ad campaign. One ad features a bobblehead Jesus. Another asks how much fun sex can be before it's a sin. This one features a two-groom cake topper.
We are trying in some way to build awareness of what our United Church is about.
And get people talking about religious issues. It's already working.
That one's funny.
I don't think it's very funny.
No? How come?
No, because I'm a Christian and I wouldn't like to see that.
It wouldn't make me think about going to church, but it's definitely a little funny.
The ads are designed to connect with people between the ages of 30 and 45.
Does God hate me because I'm gay?
At a cost of $10.5 million, the United Church is betting it will put seats in pews which have been emptying steadily for years. The need for new members couldn't be any more dire. Harrison says in the last 20 years, roughly 12 United Churches have shut down. Sparling United will become number 13.
We're a 3-bedroom family in a 6-bedroom house.
That's why the 100-year-old church is up for sale. Reverend Scott McCauley was sad to let it go, but is excited about the new opportunities it presents for change. He says the ad campaign offers people the same opportunities.
I think it's absolutely exciting and absolutely timely and critical.
You can see the ads for yourself on wondercafe.ca. They will also appear in magazines like Reader's Digest, Home and Garden, and Chatelaine. John Hendricks, CTV News, Winnipeg.
And you can see all of the print advertisements online at wondercafe.ca. The website also has a discussion lounge where you can join in on the debate. For many around the world, it's a spiritual experience, fire walking. Now a Calgary man has set a new world record for walking on flames. It took several hours just to get the bed of hot coals to the right temperature. Then Trevor McGee, a motivational trainer, began his walk over coals burning at more than 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Trevor says the feat is much more than just a stunt.
Fire walking is our oldest form of prayer. It goes back 4,000, 5,000 years, where people would walk across the fire to carry the message of their people of any healing that needed to be done, any breakthroughs they needed, anything holding them back in their life.
Trevor's new world record is 294 feet or 89.6 meters. The Guinness Book must still verify Trevor's accomplishment. The previous record, by the way, was set at 250 feet by a London man who ended up in hospital for 10 days with severe burns. The U.S. midterm elections offered a roller coaster ride for voters and candidates this past week. And while the Democrats celebrated a massive victory, the White House started cleaning house. Gone was the man who had guided the war in Iraq, Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld. As Jeannie Mose reports, for better or worse, Rummy turned some inescapable phrases and racked up a notebook full of isms.
If you're the owner of a more gin, less rummy t-shirt, your t-shirt is about to come true.
A bulletin here from the Associated Press. Breaking news.
Did you hear the news? That Donald Rumsfeld has resigned. Thank God. Donald Rumsfeld has resigned.
Oh, yes! You're kidding.
No, I'm not kidding. It happened about an hour ago.
God.
Well, this is New York, and even here, not everyone was ecstatic.
I think he was treated unfairly by the media, and he was treated unfairly by the Democrats, and then just, what does he need it for? He's a wealthy man, he doesn't need this aggravation.
The man nicknamed Rummy was known for ruminating. He was awarded the Foot in Mouth Award from the British Plain English campaign for this one.
There are known unknowns. That is to say, there are things that we now know we don't know.
We also know there are known unknowns.
Are you talking about that silly compact disc that some opera singer sings? Now, if that doesn't tell you something about the state of the world.
But even President Bush knowingly referred to what's known at the official announcement of Rumsfeld's departure.
Well, Mr. Secretary, here is a known known. Your service has made America stronger.
His quotes have been collected on websites, even a BBC site.
Soundbite 5.
If I know the answer, I'll tell you the answer, and if I don't, I'll just respond cleverly.
Rumsfeldisms ended up on bumper stickers on shirts.
I don't do diplomacy. So you ought to just back off.
When the war in Iraq was going well, Rumsfeld was a hero, but his superhero powers have dimmed. This woman was so happy to hear Rumsfeld is leaving, You are getting teared up. Why?
Well, you know, I have a stepbrother in Iraq right now, and if he's going to be there, I want to know that he's being cared for.
Rumsfeld himself seemed to get emotional, talking about how privileged he'd felt to lead the troops.
Thank you.
Presidential pat on the back. It was Rumsfeld who inspired one of President Bush's most famous quotes.
I'm the decider, and I decide what is best, and what's best is for Don Rumsfeld to remain as the Secretary of Defense.
Well, now the decider has decided differently.
There are things we do not know, we don't know.
We don't know. Jeannie Moe, CNN, New York.
If you'd like to contact us here at Good Morning Canada, we'd love to hear from you. You can reach us by mail at Good Morning Canada, care of CTV Calgary. The address is on your screen. Of course, email us at goodmorningcanada@ctv.ca or go to our website, calgary.ctv.ca, and click on the link. Well, that's all our time for today. Thank you so much for joining us. We leave you now with some images of remembrance ceremonies at Queen's Park Cemetery in Calgary. I'll see you next time.
Thank you.